Hey students, this is Mrs. Dupree. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for your patience this week as I've been reviewing your essays. I hope that you find that recorded feedback is really helpful. And just know that if you have any questions or anything doesn't quite make sense, I'm here to help. That's my job. And I want you to feel confident as you're moving into your final essay. So, wanted to go over some things that I just saw some consistent errors with. So, first, let's talk about MLA format. So, with MLA format, you should be typing your paper on a computer. And while you're not printing it out for the purposes of this class, it needs to be on a Word document. Some of you are just submitting it in the text box and you're not able to cite appropriately or formatted appropriately. So make sure that you're using Google Docs or PDF, or I personally prefer Microsoft Word. Double space the text of your paper and use Times New Roman. Everything should be 12-point font. Leave only one space after your periods. Also, make sure there's no extra spaces between your paragraphs. Again, everything should be consistently double spaced. Set the margins on your document to where they're 1 inch on every side and indent the first line of each paragraph. And that indicates that you are moving to a new paragraph so that I know where your ideas are broken up. Create a header that numbers all of your pages in the upper right hand corner, and you should also use your last name. So, for example, if I were doing a paper in the top right corner, it would say Dupree 1 on the first page. You should also have a header on the left hand side with your name, my name, the course name, and the date the assignment is due. Use italics throughout your essay to indicate longer works. And then, guys, for things like short stories, like the yellow wallpaper, you need to be using quotation marks. And then, if you have any quotations, they need to be on a separate page of your works cited page. And again, keep in mind, this is a literature essay, so you should have secondary evidence. So make sure you're citing that ebook on a different page in a works cited page. It shouldn't say references, it shouldn't say quotes, it should say works cited. So the next thing that I want to address is originality, and this is a big one. Guys, I know ChatGPT is here and we're using it. Um, I, while I allow students to brainstorm and outline, um, it's there to give you ideas and it's there to help you organize those ideas effectively. What it's not there to do is write your paper for you. There is going to be an originality and creativity component in the rubric. A lot of you wrote the same thesis in the same order using the same quotes. That tells me that it was generated online. So if you are not doing your own work and you're not using ChatGPT ethically, and if you have any questions about that, we can talk more about that personally. You're going to see it reflected on the rubric. So make sure that you are giving original thoughts to the paper, that you're using your own ideas, and that you are not allowing ChatGPT to generate your entire paper for you. Some obvious ways that I see this: some of you use the author's name incorrectly. I never referred to Charlotte Perkins Gilman as Charlotte Perkins Stetson in anything this semester. So the fact that some of you are using that makes me think that you're probably pulling something from offline. Some of you gave me a works cited page that was completely fabricated. Um, Guys, ChatGPT will give you sources that are not even, they don't even exist. And then some of you just had the exact same thesis, word for word. And again, that just shows me that there's a lack of original thought going on. So now we're going to talk about your thesis statement. There is a difference, guys, between argumentative statements and simple statements or facts. Um, some of you wrote me just straight facts. There was no real argument. There was nothing that I could sit there and decipher through. Even if you were writing a compare and contrast essay, it's not ever enough to just make a simple statement. Comparison is never enough. It still has to point the reader to an argument. So, for example, if you're comparing pizza and pasta, okay, if you're writing a paper about that, maybe your comparisons are both have really good carbohydrates and I wrote this incorrectly, but they have different variants. You can do chicken Alfredo, you can do spaghetti, you can do veggie pizza, you can do meat lovers pizza. So maybe those are the things that are alike. And then the things that are different is, oh, pizza is super easy to eat and pasta must be a sit down meal. And then maybe your thesis statement, y'all, ends up being, depending on the life phase that you are in, pizza may be a better option for you. It's on the go. You can stick it in a napkin, you can heat it up easily. That may be your argument after comparing and contrasting these ideas. So if you're doing the Washington and Du Bois paper, it's not enough to just tell me that they're different. There's got to be an argument that comes from that comparison and contrast. So now let's talk about body paragraph formation. The topic sentence, which is the first sentence in each body paragraph, should always be focused on the thesis. Some of you wrote a topic sentence that didn't even reflect the thesis at all, and that's a huge problem. Then, guys, you should be elaborating on that idea in your own words. Some of you jump straight to the textual evidence, and what that tells me is that you didn't have enough original thought. Um, After you elaborate in your own words, that's when you go back in and you use the textual evidence to support your claims. Make sure that you're either paraphrasing or using direct quotes. Make sure that you're using MLA format and use a strong transition. Don't just throw the quote out there. Something along the lines of, "This is evident as Gilman writes." Um, it's often really strong to use the author's name, and that way you've already taken care of that MLA component, because MLA calls you to use the author's name and the page number that you found it on. So if you use the author's name in the transition, you've already taken away half of that requirement. So here's a good example you can see here. It says, "This is evident as Gilman writes, comma, the wallpaper is a drag yellow." And then you see the page number followed by punctuation. Make sure that you're not putting the punctuation after the direct quote. It needs to go after the parenthetical citation. And then, as a reminder, you should be using the e-text. Elaborate on textual evidence and show how it connects to your topic. If you throw that textual evidence out there and you're not drawing the reader back to how it explains your thinking, then guys, they're going to have to come up with their own conclusions. And that means we've done a poor job of writing. And then finally, after you've elaborated and you've shown us those connections to the text, you need to use a summative sentence, which is the last sentence in the body paragraph, to show the reader that you've completed one idea and you're moving to another. And then just a little tip, you should never begin or end a paragraph with textual evidence. And that means direct quotes, paraphrasing, anything. Because, guys, what that means is that we have not elaborated on that. So it becomes a huge issue when it's the first or last sentence in a body paragraph. The next thing I want to talk to you about is point of view language. And this is really a diction and a word choice issue. Some of you are using first person point of view and you're saying things like, "I believe, I think, I know." And again, we want to keep the focus on the text and not your opinions. Secondly, you should not be speaking directly to the reader or including them in your ideas. So you don't want to say things like, "You may think, we read this and understand. It appears to us as the readers." Again, we want to stay, and that brings me to my third point, and that third person point of view. That is wise and best practice. for academic writing, particularly in any kind of research essay or any kind of literary essay. And then we want to talk about sentence structure errors. Check for comma splices, and I gave you an example here that you can check. We should never have a comma between two complete sentences. So if you have anything like that, it needs to be corrected. Check for run-on sentences. And again, I gave you an example of what this looks like. And run-on sentences are sentences that should have had a pause or a stop, and then perhaps another sentence. And then check for fragments. This is when you are lacking a complete sentence or a complete idea. And then, guys, just check your works cited page and requirements. Follow your MLA citation for your in-text citations, and then for your works cited list. Structure it appropriately. And then remember, the length is 3 pages. Some of you, I'm really concerned about your development and that you're not going to hit that 3 page mark. And just as a reminder, however much of the paper you are missing, that is the percentage of the paper that will be taken off straight from the get go. And that's before any deductions. So make sure that you have written a minimum of 3 pages and really develop those ideas. With this presentation, I've linked Purdue OWL to show you MLA format, particularly for a works cited page. And remember, you should be citing the e-text that you use in class. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I'm linking this video um, along with the response and the PowerPoint in this assignment link. And that way you can refer back to it as you're working through your paper. I also want you to make sure you review the rubric. I will have that in this assignment link as well. And if you have any questions about that rubric, I'm more than happy to walk through it with you. I want you to fully understand where the points are coming from in this essay. Have a great evening. I'm looking forward to reading these essays. And again, please reach out, email me, set up a conference, come by my office. I want to be here to support you so that you do really well on your essay. Have a great evening.